All right, what is going on, everyone? Casey Adams here. Welcome back to the Rise of the Young podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by the one and only Tillavision, the most amazing artist that I've met recently. And then we've actually known each other for a while now. But Tilla, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, not only because of the topics that we're going to be covering, but because I'm such a fan of yours, bro. Like, you inspire me. You inspire so many people. The information that you've been able to share through your platform exponentially will reward the future, you know? So thank you.
Sure.
And on behalf of myself and the future generations for blessing us with all the awesome information, awesome interviews that you've done. And just your attitude overall is really welcome. And it's refreshing. I'm honored to be here.
I appreciate it, man. And for the audience as well, we'll kick it off with a story. So I've known Tilla for a while now, and if you haven't seen his art on Instagram, make sure you go do that. I'll make sure to link it down below. But the other day, you hit me up on Instagram, and we started talking about NFTs, and we can dive into more about what that means for everyone that's listening in the crypto community or not. But you hit me up because you recently had a very cool moment in the crypto NFT world that I'll let you cover. But you hit me up and we obviously started talking about how we can collaborate, and I started diving deeper into it. But for everyone that may not have seen, I'd love for you to cover and start out with just what recently happened with the NFT world. You sold your first piece, it crushed it. I'd love to just go over that.
I've been doing motion graphics for maybe like 3 or 4 years now. And motion graphics, a lot of times it's animation or it's visual effects. Normally that's things that would be reserved for filmmaking, like the new Avengers movie is filled with visual effects. But what do those visual effects people do when they leave Disney Studios and go home? Well, they're making something on their computer. They're creating experiments. They're honing in on their skill and whatever. That art didn't have a place in the larger art world other than on that person's hard drive and them getting good practice so they can go and make Spider-Man look really good for us to watch in movies. So I started noticing that these experiments were popping up on Instagram. And this was like 4 years ago or something, 5 years ago. It was just these strange visual effects type of animations. They didn't have a point. There wasn't Spider-Man. There wasn't the narrative. It was just basically like, for instance, raining little human beings and them like piling up on the floor. Yeah. And then it just starting over and looping again. I started noticing all this amazing artwork that I became a fan of, and I became a fan of the artists that were doing it. And then I started wanting to do it, and I started creating it myself. Within the last year, January, February, I was a partner at a record label, but then in my spare time, I was doing these motion graphics experiments of my own, utilizing the last 15 years of experience in the music industry I had, which is a completely different story. But I started as a music producer. Now I'm in this motion graphics space. I want to utilize the previous 15 years of experience. So I'm doing a lot of music related motion graphics. The artists started taking notice and they started reaching out to me. Last year alone, I was able to work with Nas. You'll see my work with the Pop Smoke visualizers, Just Suffer Juice World, DJ Khaled, Drake, Will Smith. I even did something for SpongeBob, Blackpink, K-pop, Eminem.
And this all happened within the last year, 2 years?
It became an occupation for me, where before it was just it was a hobby that I was doing and something that I was passionate about. I'm an animation studio. Never thought I'd see myself in this position. It's a dream come true, and yet I'm still far from my goal. There's still so much to do. I feel like I'm just getting started. I'm getting to the point and getting to answering your question of how this all led up to last week. Now, the motion graphics community that, I told you in the beginning, I just saw these things popping up on Instagram 4 or 5 years ago, these experiments, those have become very popular now. And the reason why I was attracted to them, the world is now attracted to them and interested in, they just didn't have a way of expressing their interest other than likes on Instagram. Enter NFTs.
And what is an NFT if people don't know?
An NFT is a non-fungible token. That strange word, fungible, fungus. Wait, what is what is it? Fungible, non-fungible? What is that? It's just a funny word to say. When something's non-fungible, it means that it can change in value due to scarcity or rarity. If something is fungible, it would be like a dollar bill. because it's always going to be the same value. No matter how many there are, it's always going to be that. So something that's non-fungible can change in value, can have different values. So an NFT is a non-fungible token. What the crypto gods have deemed what they want to invest and tokenize is these motion graphics. The art form that I entered several years ago has now become kind of the vehicle of choice for NFTs.
Yeah.
So motion graphics, who before, were guys just on their off time after working at the studio all day at DreamWorks or Pixar, and now they're doing their fun little experiments at home. Now through NFTs, we can authenticate those by minting them on the blockchain as one of ones. We can sell them as a one of one art piece, which gives them value, almost creates a new format of art to be sold, distributed, and traded. There's various marketplaces online where you can do that. And it's a new day for us motion graphics artists because we are being recognized as artists now. Because
100%.
Because we have a marketplace to showcase our art, to sell it, and a way to prove that these are authenticated one of one. We can put our digital signature on it by minting it to the blockchain. That's really exciting for a lot of people who previously, because our artwork was strictly digital, we weren't taken seriously as artists. And it's really changing a lot of lives. And also it's exposing people to a style of art that, really has no limitations, digital art, because there's so much you can do with it. As we, continue talking, we'll talk more about programmable art with layered art that can change with variables such as the weather outside, with the price of Bitcoin going up and down. So imagine a digital piece of art on your wall and it changes with these different variables. You wake up every day and you can know what the weather is like outside just by looking at the painting on your wall and how it's transformed because you're familiar with how it reflects the weather. Things like that. Like, this is art that couldn't have been created 30 years ago. So we're really going through almost a new renaissance.
That's crazy, man. And for everyone that's listening, when you hit me up the other day talking about NFTs and what recently happened in your world, I knew and I've heard the term NFT for maybe 2-3 months now, ever since Beeple did that big release, but I wasn't like hip to the game. And you hit me up, and I think this is important to note, is I spent a couple hours like setting up all my accounts, diving deep into the MetaMask and making an account on Super Rare and Rareable and all these platforms that people listening, you may or may not know. And I just became fascinated with the whole concept of what an NFT is and where it's going, because, I had Tyler Winklevoss on the podcast, and they own Nifty Gateway. It's owned by Gemini. And I saw that brand before, but even on the podcast that we did, I didn't bring NFTs up and I wasn't familiar with it. And I wish I did. But for people that are curious about what we've been talking about and what recently happened with your first NFT drop, what happened and what are your thoughts on the outcome?
There's a guy named Colorful Moolah who runs Chief Keef's merchandise. It's called Glow Gang Worldwide. He actually hit me up because he needed some promotion done for a new release they had coming out. Yep. I told him, don't worry about the fee. Let's just collaborate. Let's promote it as an NFT. And then I had to explain to him what NFTs were. Because Colorful Moolah is somebody who's, he's a trendsetter. So he recognized he saw the vision. He knows that I'm, somebody with a track record for staying ahead of the curve too. And he knows like where my head's at. He was like, let's go, man. When do you want to do it? And we were planning on doing it 2 weeks after we talked about it, but we ended up just being like, we gotta do it this week, man. Like if we wait, someone else might like beat us to the punch. And it was kind of important for us to get to that point. We do take pride in being the first people to the moon to plant our flag in the ground and say like, we were here, we made this a mark, we helped in shifting the culture. Keith was on board. It was getting all the thumbs up. We completed the piece. I talked to Super Rare. I coordinated with them. They're one of the main galleries to go out there and check. Super Rare was the first one that I was working with, and what they specialize in is one-of-one pieces. This is a one-of-one piece. This isn't an open edition where there's 100 available for $500 each or whatever. The Nifty Gateway is a better location for those. And that's why it's important for the different NFT platforms to kind of know what they're good for. But Super Rare is the 1 spots, and that's what we wanted to do. We our goal was to make between $10,000 and $20,000 on the first NFT drop.
Yep. And what determines, and I know we talked about this before, but for people that don't know, like, what is a typical NFT going for? What are some of the big numbers that have happened, just so people can get a perspective of like, what are some of these selling for and why, most importantly?
Yeah. It's not uncommon to sell for between $1,000 and $5,000, which is, you know, like what, between like 1 and 3 Ethereum.
Yep.
So that's like, I would say like pretty normal. Like if you're good, I mean, some people don't sell for anything. They just, they sit there and nobody buys it. And it's not to say that their art isn't good. Maybe it's not connecting. Maybe they're not promoting it correctly. Nobody knows about them.
Yeah.
But, you know, the guys that are pretty good, I see land between 1 and 5,000. If it's like some pretty like above average, I would say, you know, between 5 and 10. And then rare is like, you know, between 15,000 and 30,000, I would say, is like pretty rare. And then super rare, anywhere between like 50 and 150,000. Wow. You know, or something like that. Like the Dead Mouse collaboration with Sutu Eats Flies. Sutu Eats Flies is the motion graphics artist, and Dead Mouse is the electronic music DJ. Their collaboration sold for 160,000.
Wow.
So we wanted to show from the hip hop community, at least, that we could put up numbers. The current highest selling NFT was set, as far as I know, was Lil Yachty. Lil Yachty put out the Lil Yachty NFT, and it sold for 16 grand. Our goal was to, you know, at least top that. And it's not like we got to beat out Lil Yachty. It's more like we need to show progress for this culture.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's building on his success.
Yeah.
We launch it on a Thursday. We were going to do a 3-day auction. Keith sends out an Instagram post. He posted it on his Twitter. Super Rare was super cool about reposting any kind of like publicity that we were getting. And we just all worked together to kind of like build up the hype. And pretty much as soon as it dropped, we were at 2 ETH, like within 10 minutes or something, which kind of put us like, you know, going by my earlier gauge, we're now reaching above average slowly. And, you know, I think overnight we were sitting at 5 ETH. We had already, you know, in the first 24 hours, we reached our goal of between 10 and 20, but we didn't want to stop before that 16 point. And I started, you know, speaking to some of the bidders, kind of like figuring out where everybody's head was at, which was a lot of fun. This was like the funnest part of the process. Had some great conversations, did some great networking, and hopefully made some long-term friends as you know, I plan to continue building in this space, and you know, the network is going to continue even beyond the sale with the guys who didn't even win. But we ended up settling at 16 ETH, $30,000. It's a moment in time, because this is the first time a hip-hop celebrity of Chief Keef status is acknowledging NFTs by saying super rare. He's saying, we're here, this is the future, follow my lead.
I love that. So the first NFT you dropped, 30 grand. And I remember when you hit me up on Instagram about that, that's when I really had this mental shift. I was like, this is so cool. Not only from an artist perspective, but it's the one of one, the rare mentality. And that's when I dove head first in. And I know we've talked on the phone about this, but you know, coming out of your first NFT drop, like what's next, and how can other artists get involved with this scene? Like, what is the process to dropping the NFT? I know you went over it a little bit, but what's like the best resources that you would recommend any artists look at and dive into when it comes to learning about this whole world?
I'm an artist now, you know? That's a little bit strange for me to think about. You know, I think of myself as a commercial artist and I do freelance work. Now I'm an artist like Jay-Z is an artist, or like Kanye West is an artist. I am the artist. I could potentially sign a record deal with a record label off of my visuals, because now I bring the same value that a music artist that they would sign brings to the table. I'm not the guy that you just pay to do the cover art. In fact, me and the artist could collaborate on the art, put out an NFT, and make tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars together. That makes me an artist. So I say that to recommend to all of you other anybody that's in this, graphic space or motion graphics, or even if you have ideas and you collaborate with a motion graphics artist to bring your idea together collectively, think of yourself as an artist. As I mentioned earlier, I come from a music background. My production partner is Alex Fitz. We had a group called the Kick Drums. We made really good music. If you look us up on YouTube, the Kick Drums. I came in the game producing for Kid Cudi, 50 Cent, Machine Gun Kelly. I was involved in the mixtape world. So we drop mixtapes and we do all this different stuff. I'm producing all the music. But simultaneously, one of my best friends from high school was having a lot of success with a website that he had launched. It's called livemixtapes.com. So if you're familiar with hip hop, Live Mixtapes was responsible for the launching of, careers like Future, 2 Chainz, the Migos. The list goes on. I mean, Live Mixtapes premiered huge tapes from Lil Wayne. I think like No Ceilings 2 or something like that was on Live Mixtapes. Rick Ross, Rich Forever was a huge release on Live Mixtapes. One of my best friends from high school launched that website. I moved from being a music producer to entering now into being an exec behind the scenes at Live Mixtapes, working with artists in releasing their mixtapes on the platform. So I would create the promotional videos. So you can kind of see how this is all building towards where I'm at now, where I'm doing these promotional graphics. I'm adding the music artists to them. It's an extension of what I've been doing.
You're able to tie everything you've built into this new world of art and music, and you have the knowledge and resources to really make it pop.
But the whole time, I'm the guy behind the scenes. That I'm not the artist. Lil Wayne's still the artist. I'm just the nameless guy who's making the animated graphic that goes out. And that was me until last year. Now, what the NFTs and the crypto art allows us to do is, us motion graphic artists we're artists.
Yeah,
So this is just
it puts power in your guys' hands as an artist and as a culture.
I recommend people that are getting into this, treat yourself like you're the artist. Your art is your mixtape. As I mentioned, and these platforms, you're the artist. You drop your singles, you have your featured artists, and then once you have enough singles, you put them all into a collection, and you call that a mixtape or an EP. Okay, so that's the metaphor. I'm the artist. My feature on my first single is Chief Keef. We drop our first NFT, our first song together, and I plan on continuing to do that. I'm the artist, and these artists that are joining me on the NFT are like my song features.
Yeah, that's a cool way to look at it as well. And it's like because you get to pull the strings, you get to pick your features. You could launch it without anyone and just do it by yourself. And it's like I said before, you have all these resources, and it's super cool how you're looking at it like that. And I didn't even see that perspective until you painted a picture for me as like, you're the artist and you bring on these other artists as a feature, and it's like a song. I totally get it. And I think for everyone listening, it's a good representation of like what the space is and how it provides, like I said before, the power to the artist moving forward, which is amazing.
But, and with, great power comes great responsibility, as they say. And that means that now that I'm the artist, I can't really be some kind of just, like a studio guy who is, some just like, somebody leaning over my computer working. Like, I gotta be a showman. You know, like how can I build this up? Like, why would Lil Wayne want to be on a track with me? So how can I? You've got to step up your showmanship if you're going to get in this space, and if you're going to want to be here and you're going to want to last. Interviews, something I don't normally do.
Totally, for sure.
So like, you got to get up off your butt and go start doing interviews. Start like, be an artist. If you want to do this, then do it all the way. That's my mentality. I mean, anybody can do anything. If in this space, there is so much room for artists to just be themselves. This is one piece of advice that even I bring over from the music industry.
Yep.
If you want to look at your image and ask yourself if you're doing a good job with your image, think to yourself, what would your action figure look like? And if you can't imagine what your action figure would look like, what accessories would come with the action figure, the packaging, maybe you should think about your image a little bit more. Because if you think of the artists that with the greatest images that you can imagine, you know exactly what their action figure would look like. If there was a Salvador Dali action figure, you know he'd have that little mustache that would curl up and go, because that's what we all know him for, you know? Like there's those certain elements that you need. So actually ask yourself, like, what's your action figure look like?
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. So just one more question before we wrap up here is just with NFTs, the future of digital art, like what are you the most excited about? What should the people expect moving forward? I know that we have some cool things that we're working on behind the scenes that we can't talk too much about yet, but I'd love to just hear from your end, like, what are you most excited about moving forward from this point on?
Well, we can't talk about what I'm most excited about. Me and Casey. We've got some heat cooking up, bro. We got some heat cooking up, and I don't want to say too much, but like I'm looking forward to working with people that inspire me and kind of creating art together that transcends both of us, you know, that transcends both parties, and we create something together that can be infinite on the blockchain. We want to create art that lasts. So I'm excited about the power that's in our hands as artists. I'm excited about the limitless amount of ideas that we can now explore through programmable art, through virtual worlds, through the metaverse.
Yep.
These things that you just thought were subplots in the Ready Player One movie that you watched a couple years ago are realities that are happening right now. They're no longer science fiction. I mean, it's almost like, you know, learning about them now is I wouldn't say you're late to the game. I'd say you're right on time.
Yeah.
So don't be intimidated if you're hearing all this and you're saying, oh, maybe I've missed the boat already. Casey's early on it, and he's putting, you know, by bringing me on and sharing information, we're putting you guys on early so that you can be ahead of the curve, as opposed to playing catch up next year when, you know, NFTs is when crypto art is no longer called crypto art. It's just called art because, you know, the mode of you know, of distribution is just how we do things now. It's no longer
normalized.
Specific to that niche, but it's normalized, and that's what they're predicting too.
Dude, I'm excited about it. I know that we'll definitely, as people listen to this, I know that we'll be putting out some promotions and telling the world more about what we're up to. But Tilla, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today, for definitely putting me on to the NFT game. Like, honestly, I'm going to say it again, and I said at the beginning, like, you hit me up about it. You were excited. I saw what you recently did as your first NFT drop, and it just allowed me to go down that rabbit hole. And I think anyone who's listening that finds this conversation curious and exciting, like, you need to go find that rabbit hole and dive deep like we both did eventually. So I'll make sure to link everything down below. But Tilla, before we wrap up, where's the best place for everyone to follow you, to check out the NFT, and to just stay up to date with everything you have going on?
My social media is Tillavision. I really need the Twitter help, guys, because I've been on that visual platform of Instagram, and I've done really well there for the past couple of years. But you know, so you can find me and you can see all my work at Instagram.com/Tillavision. But if you want to give me that follow on Twitter too, I'll let you guys know. Here's another little NFT tip: the buyers are on Twitter, the artists are on Instagram. So it's very important to have a presence in both worlds, so you can be a part of the conversation on Twitter, but yet, you know, you're still in tune with the artists that are creating on Instagram as well. So hit me up to either of those places. I'm looking to make friends, guys. If you want to follow me on superrare.com/Tillavision as well, I've got the account there. I've got a great call with Nifty this afternoon that I'm looking forward to. So hopefully you'll be able to see my work on there as well, and several other the platforms that I'm looking at. But really excited for everybody to find that rabbit hole, as Casey mentioned. And I just want to give another big shout out to Casey. Thank you again for giving me this platform. And I look forward to next time, and really excited to talk more about, you know, further expose what we got cooking in the oven right now.
Of course. Well, Tilla, thanks so much for coming on, my man.
Okay. Peace, brother.